G'day, guys. Welcome back to the Supercoach Swordplay NBA podcast. It's our round 8 preview, and it's been a little while since we've talked some NBA action around here. We just talked about some NBL, and boys, once again, for the people that didn't tune into that one, looking lovely in your green Swordplay polos. But Vernsey, lots of basketball going on at the moment, mate. Excited for some upcoming NBA matches this week?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, as much as a week off fantasy, obviously it wasn't a week off the NBA. So still plenty of basketball to watch, plenty that happened, which was great. But super keen to start getting those Supercoach points again.
Beautiful, Boz. Looking forward to some NBA action, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I respect the NBA Cup. I understand it's a really cool tournament, but I hate the fact that it kind of slows down the fantasy season in many formats around the place. But yeah, super keen to get involved once again. And funnily enough, had a mini heart attack this morning when Supercoach Hoops themselves tweeted out that lockout was at 11 a.m. today, when we all kind of saw on the app that it was saying Thursday. So we quickly replied to that and got that sorted, that it is actually Thursday, the lockout. So for those of you that panicked, I feel you, because I was panicking as well.
You're expecting that it won't come from those guys anyway, but panic avoided. We have all the good oil as usual tonight. When I say we, it's obviously Verns and Boz, and I'll do my best to host this thing. But we'll quickly talk about our results. Then we'll get right into the thick of things. We'll talk about the short-term and long-term injuries, take a look at the schedule, who's looking good, who's not. We'll then take a look at the targets, some primos, mid-prices, as well as the rookies, and then get into the captain's corner. There are a few options this week. Normally we just lock in the Joker, but maybe we do need to at least discuss some other players that we could get on board. So, Vernsey, I'll start with you. How did you go for the week? How did you score? And how are you looking overall for the season, brother?
Yeah, so week-wise, I actually lost my Supercoach Cup. I'm pretty sure it was this week or last week, but I'm knocked out of that, unfortunately. Congrats to Jake, who knocked me out. He actually made a comment on our video last week that he had me in the cup this week. So yeah, he definitely had me. Yeah, unfortunately only scored 1,101, went back 95 places, so sitting around that 2.5K mark. Unfortunately, I went a bit risky and brought in Tyler Hero last week. He ended up only playing 2 games, scoring 38, not even counting as part of my top scorers on field. And I've definitely been a bit slow on my upgrade, so I'm already a premium behind, let alone one not playing. So unfortunately, not a very good week from me.
Well, again, a very long season, and we'll talk about all the good options this week, Vernsey, as you know. Boz, how did you go for the week, and how are you looking overall for the season? I think you're closing in around the top 200.
Yep. So I'm inside the top 200. I actually dropped 10 spots to 174. I think the last 4 weeks I've either gone up or gone down, either single digits or 10. That's the highest I've kind of fluctuated. So I've just been hovering around that mark around there. And look, for me, it was a week of, if Doncic didn't miss 2 games because he had the birth of his child, which is so fine, and congratulations to him, it would have been so much better. And if Cat didn't miss just 1 game, as I'm sure they were just resting him up for the NBA Cup quarterfinals, which again is an annoying thing that they do, it would have been so much better, and I would have probably jumped some spots. So look, I'm happy that I only dropped 10. But again, it's just one of those weeks where, and I always do it when I tweet out my team each week, I always say, looking good for now, but I wonder what's going to go wrong. And there's always one thing that goes wrong. So for me, it was unfortunately Doncic. But yeah, I've already put that past me. I totally forgot that it happened until you just brought it up now. So yeah, super keen to get into some round 8 action.
Very good, mate. Myself, the 1197, 590 overall. So for someone that does not know a lot about the NBA, I think that's a bit of a fluke. You've got Vernsey that's got all the knowledge, me who's the pleb that tries to host this thing, and somehow I've got that rank. So it is absolutely unjust and unfair, but that's why people need to tune into this podcast, because I just listen in every week and take notes, you can see here on my pad. But yeah, probably the one for me that was disappointing to miss towards the end was Cat. I was super worried about my cup matchup, but ended up winning it 1197 to 1193. And it was my man Huff. It was Huffy Boy that came in right at the end and took over Peyton's score and got me the win in the cup. So that was your advice last week. Take a good look at Huff. And I'm pretty happy that I did that. And he got me home in the cup, which was really, really good. So Very happy with that. Bob, are you still in the cup? Burns,
Yes,
you mentioned out. You're still in?
Yeah, no, I had a comfortable win by about 200. I'm finally, I think, now coming up against some opponents that we're going to have a bit of a test against. So, yeah, this week's looking like it'll be an interesting one because I don't have many on the 3 games. So I'm a little bit panicked there, but we'll see how we go.
Beautiful, mate. Now, we've got a couple of comments here. Here's our boy Cheese. How are you, mate? Going live during the BBL is very risky, boys. Now, you are right, mate. We don't know if we'll have too much of an audience tuning in at the moment, but what we've been talking about, Cheesy, with these podcasts as well as the GDS stuff we've been doing is if we do it live, it automatically gets uploaded to YouTube straight away. There's no waiting for downloads and uploads, all that sort of stuff. And just like your good self is doing, Legend, we can get the community involved if they are sticking around for live. So thank you very much for tuning in, mate. But yeah, we're not expecting a huge audience with the BBL cracking at the moment. And half was cooking. Yes, very, very happy with that trade in, mate. We've got the ladies' man, Causa Blackledge, a great member of the channel. You can see the member sign there. So, Causa, much love to you, mate. Feel like I'm taking a hit this week with only 3 game players and going potty in Fox on a 3-game week. So that was 3 game players and going with a potty in Fox on a 3-game week. We may talk about Fox during the podcast, Causa. The boys will look after you there. So thank you very much to all the community that is tuning in. But yeah, some fairly good results from us this week. But again, a very, very long season. Talking about long, good segue into the long-term injuries. Now, Boz, we've got a little bit of concern here, minimum 1 week all the way up to 4 weeks. What can you tell us about some of these short-term injuries, brother?
Long-term, DR, or short-term?
Oh, look, I'm losing my mind, mate. We're teachers. It's coming towards the end of this school year. We're talking long-term here, mate. Talk us long-term.
Now, we're definitely prone to a few mistakes, aren't we, us teachers? But yeah, look, a few have popped up over the week, and it's only been a week where not much basketball has been played, but injuries are still occurring. So Kristaps Porzingis, someone who has had this illness, this mystery. I think it's called POTS, I'm led to believe. I'm not sure about it. I think it's something to do with your blood pressure, things like that. But he just can't get that under control. And they've actually come out today and said he's going to miss at least 2 weeks, as they just want to kind of get it under control. So I'm not sure if they're running more tests or if they're trying to kind of work out maybe a return to action, but he's going to be missing 2 weeks minimum. That makes it a little bit juicier in Atlanta for those who have Jalen Johnson, and also even someone that I'm thinking about getting in this week because they can't afford Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, a bit of a pod that we'll talk about a bit later. Evan Mobley, he's also injured himself, 2 to 4 weeks, calf strain. The most common injury, it seems, at the moment in the NBA is someone popping a calf. He is, out for 2 to 4. So in Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell is going to step up and do a whole lot more than he's already done. Even Darius Garland will also get some more usage. And there's a guy that we'll talk about in the mid-prices that looks to have got a nice roll back now that Mobley's out. Austin Reeves, a minor calf strain, so they're only thinking 1 week. And to be honest, this came out about 3 or 4 days ago. So realistically, he could be back by the middle of this round. However, if you've got him, Lakers' schedule moving forward, not great. So I wouldn't really consider holding on to him. Franz Wagner, he went down at the time what looked like a season-ending knee injury, and then it came back that he had a high ankle sprain. So he was clutching his knee. It looked all knee, and then all of a sudden the reaction occurred a bit lower down the leg. So again, in Orlando, that now opens up some value for a Desmond Bain and even a Pablo Banchero if you're game enough to go there. And then in Memphis, this really sucks. More for the fantasy kind of land at ESPN and things like that. Not much Supercoach, but Zach Edey was playing really, really well. A young kind of center out of Memphis. He's out for 4 weeks. He's hurt an ankle as well. So look, there's no immediate pickup there or no immediate person we have to think about in Memphis. But if someone does pop up and they come into a good schedule, we might start talking about some options there.
Nice, mate. You just mentioned Cheese in the fantasy. Cheese owns 3 of these blokes. So, ouch, you just mentioned it. And Cheesy is feeling it at the moment. Yeah, all right, now tough. To the short-term injuries. I'm going to get this one right. The short-term injuries. How concerned are we here, mates? We've got LaMelo, Edwards, Maxey, and Zach LaVine all looking doubtful.
Yeah, so the concerning thing is we don't really know until the morning of their games. The NBA injury reports, they're pretty good at getting them out and they're pretty good at getting them accurate, but it's just if you miss it or if you're at work, especially the Australian time that the games are played, it's very easy to miss. So LaMelo's missed the last couple again for his ankles. I said it earlier in the podcast in the start of the year. He's got the weakest ankles ever. Like, never pick him in any fantasy format. So he's someone that you just can't trust. Again, if you held on to Con Kneppel, you're laughing because he's just continued to chug along really nicely as a great rookie option for those that held him. Anthony Edwards missed the last game with a knee. Don't know if they're just giving him a night off for rest, but he's someone that people will have or would have got in purely because of this 3-game week. So look, fingers crossed for those owners that he gets up for their next game, which is in a couple of days' time. I think he will, because nothing's really come out saying that it's going to be a bit longer than just the one game. Maxi missed the last 2 with illness, so he might just have a bit of the flu, which I do myself. Hopefully, I'm not sounding too nasally tonight on the pod. But yeah, he's not feeling too good himself. He should be back for the next one, though. He's pretty tough. Zach LaVine did his ankle yesterday. So the reason why it's short term is because we have no idea. Are we getting Zach LaVine in? Probably not. Sacramento are on a 3-game week this week, but I don't think he was an option. But just in case someone was out there looking for a bit of a pod play, probably steer clear away from Zach LaVine. I want to add just one more because it happened today. Peyton Watson, if you got him in as a mid-pricer that we liked in Denver, that's me included there. Unfortunately, he left the game after 6 minutes with a trunk injury. That was what it was labelled as. He didn't return. Cannot guarantee he's going to miss time, but also cannot guarantee he'll play in the next one. So, look, at his price of $9,500, yes, they have about 5 4-game weeks coming up after this one. I'd be happy to move him on, and I think I'm just going to move him on this week, just to get him off my roster, because I don't think he's going to be game-changing, to be honest.
Yeah, change of plans for me then on the back of that news. So that's why I host this podcast, because I get all the good oil from you, boss. So Peyton Watson, extremely disappointing. Now, got a couple more comments here. The New World Order. Geez, everyone watching the Big Booty League instead. I'm bringing in the Send Gun and captaining him this week. When we get to the captain's corner, my friend, look out for our pod option, which we will discuss. And Metal Pig's talking about Hero here. Mate, we will get to some of the options that you may look to bring in this week. So
I think he's probably talking about short-term injury when he says hero ?
All right. What are we thinking here? How's he looking? Are we concerned? Verns, we know that you've had a bit of bad luck here with this man. What are we thinking?
Yeah, so Boz was talking about it before the pod, but he did miss today because of that toe. So it does seem like it'll be one of those things where it's just, you don't know. It's going to be each and every sort of day assessment, which makes it very hard. Personally, I'm going to hold just because so many people are on a 2-game week that if he plays 2 games, it's not really a detriment. Be great if he plays all 3, but I'll probably hold him for this week. And then I don't trust him beyond that because it just sounds like he's going to miss too many games at last second.
Good call, mate. And Cheesy wants to see a bit of love for old man Westbrook in the options. So we'll see how we go for you there, Cheesy. But yeah, unlucky with Hero. But it's a good point that you mentioned, Verns, the fact that because he does have that 3-game week, it's not like he's one of these 2-gamers that could only be potentially playing the 1. There still is a chance he could get a double like lots of other players are. So don't mind you thinking there. But at this stage, again, until we get some confirmed news, it's a little bit of guesswork, which is tough. But Vernsey, continue on your great work here, man. We have the schedule. Now, for the first time, we are actually up to date here. So you can see next to the team names, it is round 8. And there are a lot of 2s. A lot of damn 2s here, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we talked about it last week. We wanted to get players in that had sort of the 4-3 games. Sacramento was one of the teams that I think maybe the only team that didn't have that, maybe Washington as well. But they're teams that don't really have players we're too interested in, to be fair. So basically any team that has a 2, we're not going to be bringing, I mean, you can still bring them in because it's not a detriment, but we're more or less targeting the guys with a 3-game. Saying that, any team with a 3-game don't have a 4-game next week. So over the next 2 weeks, any team with a 2-4, they're going to match anyone with a 3-3. So it's not a huge deal. As we've put there's no one with a 3-4-4. So it's not a huge deal in that aspect. Now, saying that, I think this is a really good week to sort of look at upgrading team because as we sort of mentioned, there's no rush to get a premium in, really. Because if you're getting a premium in, you could always wait an extra week, or if you get a premium in this week, I think it's not. We don't need I think previous weeks have been able to sort of side with our premiums. You'd have 3 premiums, you'd side with 3 of them to guys on better schedule. Where I think with the way we're sort of set up for a lot of people now, this is a good week to look at the rookies that have accrued a lot of cash over this period of time, maybe make a double downgrade and then a single upgrade this week. Try and improve your team that week, that way. So, I think this is a good week to try and sort of look at that to sort of improve the team.
Good advice, mate. Now, Boz, short-term fixture-wise, we've got a few teams here, mate. Is this where you're really looking for the week?
I'm not putting all my eggs in this basket, and the point is what Vern's raised. Like, you get next 2 weeks, your players are always matching each other. So what I mean by that is if they're playing a 4-2 or a 3-3, you're getting 6 games. So you might take a hit this week, but then you'll make that up next week, or vice versa. If you go really strong on the 3-game weeks this week, well, then you're going to be really scarce in 4-game players next week. So I don't feel like you need to target too many. I think Burns he would have said it maybe last week going into this week saying, ideally maybe like 4 or 5 players on the 3 would be ideal, because then you're not overloading yourself. And then next week you can obviously get out from underneath a couple of those guys to then get back straight onto some 4 guys. So, if you're someone sitting there and you literally have one person playing a 3, well, then I will say there's some alarm bells ringing, and I'd probably say, look to get another 3 guys in that are playing 3-game weeks. But if you've prepared really well, and let's say you've brought in Anthony Edwards previously, Karl Anthony Towns, Scotty Barnes, they're 3 guys that all have 3 this week, and you have those 3, and then you can kind of maybe get in another 2 guys, but then get a downgrade option that's going to make you a whole lot of cash, but isn't actually playing 3 this week. I think that's okay. I think having between that 4 to 6 range of players on court playing 3 games will pretty much, depending on how they play, should probably have you hovering around the score for the week that you'd want. So, look, for me, I'm pretty underwhelmed at the moment with my 3-game kind of players. So I'm looking to bring in maybe 2 just to get my on-court team up to about 5 in total. And then next week, get out from under a couple of those guys. So I'm doing a bit of both. I'm bringing in a couple that have the 3 and then bringing in one kind of rookie option that is not going to be on my court, but it'll make me a heck of a lot of cash over the next few weeks.
Like it, mate. Like it. So, again, no team has the 3-4-4 in the short-term fixture. Atlanta, Chicago, Houston, Miami, Minnesota, New York, Sacramento, San Antonio, Toronto, and Washington, as you would have seen on the screen there. And we've got an avoid here. Brooklyn. Boss, why are we avoiding the poor Brooklyn Nets?
Well, they just go into 2-2 games. So that's purely why I've put them there. There's a rookie that some people will be interested in bringing in, Danny Wolf. He's getting some minutes off the bench. I just don't trust him as much as maybe another rookie that we'll speak about a bit later. So look, I guess if you're really desperate for cash gen, if you need to make a double downgrade and you see Danny Wolf, I think he's about 4.5, between 4.5 to 5 mil. He's good only if you're going to kind of know that you're playing him on your bench for the next 2 weeks to make some cash. But someone like a Michael Porter Jr., who's actually playing tremendously right now, he's averaging 30 points over the last 5 or 6 games. You're not bringing him in as a premium option. He'd be a great pod if they were playing a 3-game week, but they're not. They're playing 2 2-game weeks. So, there's no point getting in Brooklyn assets.
Like it, mate. And the Metal Pig, how are you, mate? Love that SC finally added the players' number of games next to each player. Very helpful. Absolutely is, isn't it? You don't necessarily need to be studying these fixtures, but in saying that, it is really good to be looking ahead, not just at the next round or this round. Make sure that you keep looking at that schedule, and I'd be looking 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance just to get your plans really, really into place, I think. But good talk about the schedule. Now, based off that, we have a few primo targets. Now, based off the other slides in the past, we haven't seen as many names, but we've got a huge variety of players here. Boys, where do you want to start? Is there one player in particular that's really catching your eye? I must admit, for me this week, it's Jalen Johnson, and this may be a little bit of FOMO. I just have not owned the man. I was keen to bring him in last week, but I think Boz did give us a little bit of pre-warning that not likely, there is a chance he may not play all of those games. that was absolutely the case, but he probably still scored well enough that it would have been okay to bring him in. But he's clearly the man that I'm personally looking at this week. Do any of you boys have someone that's really, really floating your boat going into round 8?
I think you're on mute, Verns.
Sorry, just hitting mute every now and again to make sure you don't hear any background noise. Sorry about that, team. But for me, it's Wemby. I mean, we've seen what he can do in these 3-game weeks. He's had over 150 points in these 3-game weeks. I think if you're bringing him in and he plays all 3 games, that's obviously the big question mark. He's going to be the number 1 scorer of the week and probably the number 1 captain option. That's not dissing anyone like Johnson, who's been incredible. But we just know Wemby's ceiling is it's just astronomical, and he's got Washington twice, so seems pretty good.
Ooh, yeah, that's hard to argue with, Vernsey. Boz, is there one player in particular that's standing out for you this week to bring in?
Well, I've been looking at it in kind of buckets in terms of what you can afford. So like bucket number 1 is if you've got unlimited money to pick anyone. I think, Wemby, and we're speaking off air about this, Verns, and I'm always paranoid about this, but I just think they have the NBA Cup tomorrow, then they have a night off, then they go into a back-to-back, so Washington into Atlanta, then a night off into Washington again. If they were to win the NBA Cup and they hit the Vegas Strip, something tells me they're going to be a little bit worse for wear. Something also tells me that maybe Wemby coming back on a minutes limit, which he has at the moment, he's only playing 20 minutes, albeit he doesn't need much more than 20 minutes to produce fantasy value. Just feel like maybe they give him a night off for winning. So I don't know. You can't base your trades around that, but it'd be really annoying if you spend all that money for Wemby and he kind of misses one of those games just for injury management, because teams are loving that injury management, in quotation marks, injury tag they've been giving players. We see it all the time. Joel Embiid, or pretty much any player that gets injured and comes back, misses 1 game or 2 games for injury management, which I think is a load of bull dust, but whatever. But if you did have an unlimited kind of pot of money, then that's good. That second category, it's Jalen Johnson or Şengün. I really like Alfred Şengün. I really like the way he plays. He's a bit like Jokic in a sense that he can kind of score from any kind of avenue, whether it be points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, etc. Yeah, great question there from Will saying, who would you grab, JJ or Şengün? I would probably go Şengün. I think we've missed the boat a bit on Johnson. I just feel like he's about 1.5 to 2 million cheaper, so you're saving money there. I think they can get similar in scoring. I just think, I don't know, maybe it's just me personally thinking that Jalen Johnson has to drop off because I traded him out so early in the season and he just hasn't. But I've been averaging, I think he's had a triple-double in his last 5 games in a row or something. He's breaking records at the moment in Atlanta. So, me personally, I'd go Şengün just to save the money for future upgrades. But at the same time, if you haven't got Johnson, I guess you could get him. But my thoughts are everyone's already got him. So you're not really making up any ground with him. You're kind of just joining the pack. You're following the sheep. So I'm looking elsewhere, in my opinion. And then in that last bracket, sorry, Verns, I know I'm talking a bit, I'm rambling, but I really love a Okongwu from Atlanta. He's really cheap. He's at I think 12 or 13 million. Kristaps Porzingis is out now. So we find with Okongwu that when Kristaps plays, he comes off the bench and he plays okay. But then when Porzingis misses, he's on the court starting, playing 30 to 35 minutes a game, and that's plenty of time for him to get value. I like him as a really kind of stab in the dark, low budget option that I think I'll be going with this week.
Yeah, no, don't worry about me. I just wanted to say when you make the comment, you're everyone has JJ, you're just following. The thing is though, they're not gonna have your team. You're gonna have 3 or 4 other players that are different, and if you're mitigating the damage that Johnson is doing, because I'll be honest, if I'm not looking at Wemby as a captain, Johnson's probably the next up, is he not? So I feel like getting Johnson is perfectly viable, and I think sometimes people overthink it when they think, I don't want to copy the pack, and then you make the incorrect decision. You don't get the best player, and then you're just losing points because you didn't get him because he did something unique. So, pick the best player that you want, and if that happens to be a pod, that's a bonus. Don't go out of your way to make them a pod,
Yeah, it's a good point.
It is so tough. Any of the other options here, guys? Well, we think they're all fairly realistic. Maybe not sure about Hero there, but look, you've been probably watching on the screen for the last 5 minutes. Anyone else worth a real shout here, or in particular, boys?
Not a real shout. I think a lot of people probably already have a Brunson or a Cat or a Barnes and Edwards, even a Giddy. I think those five will probably be, maybe 2 or 3 of them are already on people's rosters just because
That's
they
me.
had a great schedule 2 or 3 weeks ago that led into this kind of nice 3-game week this week. I wouldn't get any of those guys in over a Johnson or a Şengün or a Wemby in my opinion. And then Thompson for Houston, he's again like one of those kind of budgety primo options. He's playing good, but whilst not playing great. I think he's averaging, that mid-20s Supercoach. He does have a decent ceiling. He was really good last season at getting defensive stats. He was a great steal and blocks guy. It's just not happening this year. He's averaging under a block a game and just over a steal a game when he was averaging 1.5 plus in both. So I just haven't seen that from Thompson. Maybe it's because KD's now in town and he takes a bit more usage. So look, I wouldn't, again, as Vern said, go potty with Amen Thompson just for the sake of it. If you're strapped for cash, potentially he's a nice option. But I think those 3 guys are the ones that I'll be picking. Or Durant. Durant will just break down at some point, and that's the one thing with Durant. He's 38 years old. It just makes me nervous. Like, the week you get him is the week that they play 3 games and he rolls his ankle in a warm-up or something like that. So KD is a great shout, and he's probably their second highest Supercoach scorer for Houston. But I'd rather go with the younger Şengün if I was going to compare KD and Şengün.
Yeah, and look, the last thing I will add here just for this is most of these games, they all start at the same time on Thursday for the guys that are doing a lot of these 3-game weeks. So I know somebody like Wemby will be starting on Thursday, and you can make a decision there. If you want him, he can be in your team. You see the lineups, he's not playing, then you make a pivot because at the end of the day, Wemby can go down to anyone, obviously. Don't jump off him just because you think he could be missing, because if he does get named, as we said, like, ceiling is huge.
Beautiful, boys. Absolutely love it. Well, let's get into some of the mid-price targets here. And we've got 3 in Bazulis, Tyson, and KPJ. Boz, what are you going to tell us about these 3 options for the week?
Yeah, so I was just having a look at some of the mid-price options between that 8 million to 10 million, and these 3 definitely stood out. Bazalis had a bit of a slow start to the season. He's kind of come around now. I don't know if it's because Giddy's had a couple of poor weeks, and when Giddy's shot's not falling, maybe they get Bazalis a bit more involved. He'd be a very unique player to kind of have on your roster. He's someone you can trust to maybe, get around 20 to 23 Supercoach points pretty consistently. Is that enough? Not sure. Like, if you can afford any of those primos that we looked at before, 100% go for it. Although his break even is quite low. I think his break even is actually in the negatives, if I recall correctly. So his break even is actually 4. Sorry. So, he's going to make you money as well as being a decent scoring option. And then the other 2 are even better. So Tyson was the guy I was alluding to when I spoke about Mobley being out injured. He's like the perfect injury replacement guy for Cleveland. So when Darius Garland missed the start of the season, he was starting as the shooting guard and Donovan Mitchell was sliding down to the point guard. When they've missed DeAndre Hunter, Tyson has actually been that player in the small forward position. Now with Mobley out, again, another guy who has high usage is missing. So Tyson, as long as one person in Cleveland's injured, he's a really, really solid option. Now, he didn't actually start in the first game that Cleveland played where Mobley was out. Dean Wade started. However, he still got 30-plus minutes off the bench and had a double-double. I think he had 16 points, something like 12 rebounds or something. So for his price at, I think, $8.5 million, and the fact that he actually, 8.8 million, I should say, and he has a negative 15 break even, he's a really solid court option, but also moneymaker. And then lastly, Kevin Porter Jr., Giannis is out. He's had a massive week 7. Didn't do too well at the start of this week. Didn't matter Supercoach-wise because it didn't affect his score, but he has a negative 42 break even. So he's someone you could slot into your point guard or shooting guard position and potentially in 3 games give you a 90 and also make heaps and heaps of money. So 3 decent options that you could look to target if you're wanting a bit more of a mid-price, maybe safety score on the court as well.
He's currently in my trade plans, Porter Jr., myself. Vernsey, any interest in any of these three blokes for you this week?
Yeah, KPJ's also made his way into my team. I mean, like, he's averaging 28. I understand he's only played 6 games, but 28 average is basically 10 mil underpriced. Now, I'm not expecting him to, continue this 28 consistently, but even if he gets halfway there, if he can keep getting these 20 pluses, he's underpriced and he's a good on-field option. So I'm very happy to bring him on into the team. It does just make things a bit harder to obviously upgrade when you're bringing in a guy that's 9 mil.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Well, we're both on him this week. And as I mentioned, I'm very keen on Johnson. So I'm actually going one of the premiums in Johnson, one of the mid prices in KPJ, and one of the rookies, my good mate, Boz, Nembard, coming into my side this week from Dallas, not from Indiana.
Yes, don't get confused, guys. This is the younger brother of Indiana's Nemhard. Now, yeah, he kind of just came out of nowhere. He's a rookie this year. He didn't get any minutes to start the season. I don't think Dallas really enjoyed their combination of D'Angelo Russell and Brandon Williams playing point guard. An injury to Williams and Russell opened up the opportunity, and he took it and ran. He has had a bit of a slowdown, and that's obviously what you expect. He had something like 41 assists and only 1 turnover in his first 2 NBA games. Like that is, or 3 NBA. It's insane numbers there. Like it's things you don't see, but he has slightly dropped off. However, they played today, Dallas. Anthony Davis was out, so that means that his usage won't be as high. However, they still ran him out there for 38 minutes, and that's a really good sign. Like, role is everything. Minutes mean productivity. So Nemhard, I would be locking him in. He's the cheapest. He has the highest break even at -50. I'm not going to be putting him on my court this week as he only plays 2 games, but he's definitely going to be on my bench, making an absurd amount of money. And I'm actually going to be getting out Jenkins from Detroit, who looks to have pretty much lost any minutes for Detroit. So you actually got to kind of toss up who you are getting out for these guys. And if it's someone like a Jenkins or a dead rookie on your bench, he's a perfect option to target.
Like it. Vernsey, who's on the top of your rookie hit list this week?
Oh, you can't look past Nemhard. I mean, like, -50 break even, you don't have to do much to make money. He can sit on your bench and accrue cash, and that's all we need. I think a lot of people are in positions where they probably only have 3 or 4 rookies on field, and most of them are going to be the more high tier queens and flags and Kevin Porter Jr.'s sort of thing. So yeah, Nemhard, great to get in, bottom dollar, sitting on your bench, perfect.
Beautiful. Boz, any other particular break evens that you want to go through? Any other rookies that you want to discuss before we finish up with the Capitano's Corner?
Yeah, I'll quickly touch on the other 3 guys on the screen. So Jordan Walsh plays for Boston. He took over the starting role from Josh Minnow, someone who we all kind of had in our teams early in the season. And he hasn't looked back. He's been really, really good, really efficient. He's a great defensive stat accumulator. So he's someone that you could think about playing. He, for whatever reason today, they didn't start him in the second half. And I spoke about this with Josh Minnow. Boston's coach is a bit weird. If he doesn't like what you're doing, he's not afraid to just shun him to the bench. And I think that was the case today. So has he fallen out of favor? Don't think so, but just buyer beware. Also, he's a little bit more of he is a rookie still, but he's at the $5.5 million mark. So he's not a mid-pricer, but he's also a bit more of an expensive rookie. You're not choosing him over Nemhard, no way. Maxime Reynaud, I think his name is, for Sacramento. He's pretty much just filling in for Sabonis, who's been out for the last, I think, 2 to 3 weeks. Sure, Sabonis isn't far off, but this kid has just gotten better and better. Another actual rookie in his first year in the league, a -20 break even, and he put up 71 points in, I think, 4 games last week. I can't remember if Sacramento had 4 or 3, but 71,
3. Really
solid. 3, even better. So 71 over 3, that's really solid for a rookie option. The only thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if we see kind of a notification next 5 days saying Sabonis has been cleared to return. So again, wouldn't choose him over Nemhard. However, for whatever reason, if your point guard line, you cannot, for whatever reason, change it, and it's just so set, and you can't actually get this Nemhard in, well, then he might be a decent option that you pick if you kind of have the spot open in that power forward center position. And then lastly, Danny Wolf from Brooklyn has just been given a bit of opportunity off the bench. When he's hot, he's being kept on the court. When he's not, he's being pulled. You can expect anywhere between 14 to 22-ish minutes a game. I just don't like that. Like, he's a rookie. He's going to have good games, but he's going to have bad games. And Brooklyn are in a position where they're not fully tanking just yet. I do think they will get to a point at the end of the season where they do start resting some guys. But at the moment, they're still rolling out Michael Porter Jr. They're still rolling out Nicholas Claxton. They're still rolling out these more senior guys to play big minutes. So I just don't think there's enough minutes for Wolf to be a long-term hold. I think he'll make some quick cash, but I just don't see him being that kind of long-term rookie we can have with confidence on our bench. Like, he's 4.2 mil, so his basement price and a -8 break even. But again, he's someone that if you get him, it's probably if you're doing a boost and you're having the double downgrade to get 2 primos in or something like that.
Yep. I just want to jump in quickly again, just with our boy Ray from Sacramento. Once again, they have 3 games this week, so that -20 break even, it's actually better than what you see, because Nemhard has a -50 off a 2 game, Kevin Porter 42 off a 2 game. So yeah, -20 off 3 games, whole extra game to be scoring points. Yeah, and he did the 71 in 3 games, which is super impressive. Finally, I will also just jump on. I talked to Boz about this beforehand because I needed to know which rookie to sort of target, but we also have Spencer Jones from Denver. Now we do have Peyton Watson, who potentially is injured there, so potentially more minutes for him. And yeah, he's also a sneaky one that I'm personally looking at.
Nice call, Burnsy. Nice call. And that's the thing with this game. When players go down, opportunities arise for rookies, for players that spend a large majority of minutes on the bench. And that's where you need to be absolutely across this game and in the know. And that's where you guys absolutely smash it week upon week. All right. We are going from the rookies all the way up into the big boys, the best of the best are left for this slide. It is the captain's corner for this week. And I must be honest, I don't think about the captaincy too much in NBA Supercoach. Being a jockey, can only just pop the captaincy on him and put the hands behind the head type thing. But is this a week, lads, where we look to diverge and go a little bit different and stay away from the big lad?
I think it is definitely one that we can, just in the sense that obviously we've talked about it before, where like 3 games compared to 4 games, it's only a 0.25 increase, where 2 games to 3 games is a 0.33 increase. So technically getting 1 extra game is just, you're more likely to score points. There's less room for Jokic to sort of catch up. And we have seen these sort of lower games from Jokic where he's only scored around the 30. You know, Jokic could come out, have 2 mediocre games, maybe get 70 points in total, which for a lot of people, 70 points is still really good. And we've seen Johnson and Wemby be able to go like 120, 130 plus in 3 games. So, yeah, I think this is a week that you could take it away from Jokic.
Boz, are you looking to go away from the Joker?
Oh, it's really tough. Verns does raise a really good point. But then you look at Jokic today, he had 39 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. So he pretty much, I haven't added it up in my head, but it looks like he's probably scored about 50 Supercoach today. And if he's doing that 2 games in a row and he's getting 100, it's just the safest and easiest kind of set and forget, isn't it, on those 2 games?
I mean, you say that, yeah. I mean, Johnson and Wemby, could he, like that? That's like best case scenario. You're getting 100.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're right. It is best case scenario. I would not be against attacking, and at the moment, I've actually got Sengun as my pod because I'm not getting Wemby, I'm not getting Jalen Johnson. I'm going to stick to that there, and I'm just thinking, maybe Jokic has 1 slightly down game, and Sengun has 2 or 3 really good ones, and that just gets him around the mark. I just don't think there'll be much difference, to be honest, really, in these 4 guys scoring if they all play a lot of games they're meant to play coming into this week. So you can't fault any of them. Like Johnson, very much averaging a triple-double in the last 2 weeks. Jokic, just insane. Wemby, albeit on a minutes limit, and potentially winning an NBA Cup. He's looking so keen to be back on the court. He can go huge in those small minutes. And then Sengun is pretty much the highest scorer at Houston. So, yeah, I don't think you can go wrong, to be honest.
Oh, it's tough. I'm looking at Johnson myself. I think I'm bringing him in. I'm going to slap the C on him and just hope for the best, I think. And it's a bit of a nervous feeling not putting it on the big fella. But look, if you're going to do something different for a week, look at the schedule. I'm happy to go a little bit different. So I like that pod move as well that you mentioned there, Boz. It seems like we're all going different here. So Boz looking at Shengun for now. I'm looking at Johnson. And were you looking at Wemby? You said Vernsey?
Yeah. If I end up holding him.
I love it.
Yep. I reckon Johnson will be my backup, though. The idea right now is to go Wemby. If Wemby doesn't get named in the first game of the round, I will just pivot to Johnson and probably captain him.
Yep. Beautiful. Boys, that is the end of the run sheet here. That is the end of the podcast. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up before we say goodbye for the week?
Well, look, I mean, for those that don't follow the NBL or watch the NBL, you wouldn't have heard us talk about it, but you've seen us wearing these stylish new outfits all poddy long. Get around the Supercoach Swordplay merch on supercoachswordplay.com. Me and Boz just got these bad boys and they are clean.
Look beautiful on you two, men. Look absolutely beautiful. Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see who comes back next week with the biggest captain score, if we all stick with what we're doing at the moment. And look, for the community, thank you very much for tuning in. We did have some pretty stiff competition during the live with the BBL currently playing, but I can see 12 people currently. For the 12 people that are currently here, and remember, this will be uploaded directly onto YouTube right away. We do thank you for tuning in and your loyal service to the podcast. These two men that I'm with are the best of the best when it comes to this sort of stuff. And my ranking would be nowhere near a top 600 without the two of them. So hang on, we've got one more here. Boys, you can answer this. Last question we're going to answer. Vera, Spurs or Knicks? Who are we tipping, Spurs or Knicks?
I reckon Spurs.
Yeah, I want the Spurs to win. I don't like New York Knicks. I follow Brooklyn, so there's a bit of a battle there of New York. But yeah, I want the Spurs to win the cup. All those young guys, they deserve a bit of glory.
Beautiful, mate. And so we've got a last minute one from New World here. When are you doing AFL Supercoach video next? I'll tell you what, mate. The team picker is out tomorrow. I am dabbling in GDS NBL, GDS BBL, the Supercoach NBA. I'm doing so much at the moment. Obviously, the BBL Supercoach, but that's my main love. That's my main baby, is the AFL, obviously, and that's where I can actually give a bit of knowledge and hopefully help out the community more rather than just hosting it. But look, tomorrow I have to put one out. The team pick is coming out, so I'm just going to dabble in, open it up, and see what happens. I've got no plans, no structure. I don't know what's going to happen with the video, but I'm just going to open it up, press record, and see what happens. But yeah, very exciting AFL team picker out tomorrow. And cheers, mate. Lovely morning. Yeah, cannot wait. And cheers to you for tuning in as well, buddy. Appreciate it. But Vernsey, Boz, thanks again, legends. Much appreciated. Good luck with your NBA teams this week. Boz, good luck staying in the cup. I got there by the skin of my teeth, and I conveniently left out that my opponent actually owned Shengun last week, which is pretty much a reason why I got over the line. So bad luck to my opponent. I legitimately do feel bad for you. But all the best, guys. Thanks again. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.
Oh.